Hello, welcome back to my channel. If you like my video, consider giving it a thumbs up and hitting the subscribe button. I bet you didn't know that some of the plants in your garden should not be mixed together, destined to never date, let alone be friends. Today we are talking about plants that are born to be mortal enemies. Planting them together may cause sometimes irreversible damage, resulting in low to no yields. Let's dive right in. The tomato and the potato. Well, if you're thinking about planting tomatoes and potatoes together, I hope you like trouble, because that's exactly what you'll be getting. You might think that since they're both members of the nightshade family, they would be the perfect match. But nope, these two are bitter enemies. Tomatoes attract pests that can destroy potatoes, and the two plants have similar nutrient needs, leading to competition for resources. But that's not the worst part. You know how kids in school always seem to catch each other's colds? Well, it's the same with plants. They can catch diseases from each other too. And in the case of tomatoes and potatoes, they both happen to be susceptible to a nasty fungal disease called late blight. Late blight is like the flu of the plant world. It spreads quickly and can be devastating to entire crops. And if you plant tomatoes and potatoes together, you're just asking for trouble. If one of them catches late blight, it'll be sure to pass it along to its neighbor like a game of hot potato. So, if you want to avoid a plant-based pandemic in your garden, it's best to keep your tomatoes and potatoes at a safe distance from each other. Trust me, they'll both be much happier that way. Strawberries and brassicas. That's a no-go, my fellow gardeners. It's like trying to mix oil and water, or cats and dogs, or, well, you get the idea. You see, strawberries and brassicas just don't get along. It's like they're from different planets, with different needs and different ways of doing things. Strawberries like a warm, sunny spot with well-drained soil, while brassicas prefer cool, moist conditions with nutrient-rich soil. It's like they're saying, you go your way, and I'll go mine. But that's not all. To make matters worse, brassicas have a reputation for attracting pests, like cabbage worms and aphids, which can be a real pain in the strawberry patch. And if you thought that was bad, some people even claim that planting brassicas near strawberries can make them taste bitter. It's like they're saying, I don't like you, and I don't want to be near you. So, if you want to keep the peace in your garden, it's best to keep strawberries and brassicas at arm's length. Plant them in separate areas, or better yet, plant them in different parts of the yard. That way, they can each have their own space to thrive, and you can avoid any potential plant-based drama. It's like they're saying, you do you, and I'll do me, but let's agree to stay out of each other's way. Carrots and dill. Oh boy, planting carrots and dill together is like trying to host a party with your mortal enemies as guests. It's just not a good idea. You see, carrots and dill are like oil and vinegar. They might be good on their own, but when you mix them together, it's a recipe for disaster. The problem is that dill is a notorious overachiever when it comes to growing. It's a fast-growing, tall plant that likes to spread its roots and shade out the competition. And unfortunately for the humble carrot, that means it's going to get the short end of the stick. When carrots and dill are planted together, the dill can end up crowding out the carrots, stealing their sunlight and nutrients, and basically treating them like second-class citizens. It's like the dill is saying, move over, carrot, there's a new plant in town. But that's not all. Dill can also attract aphids and other pests, which can spread to the carrots and cause all sorts of problems. And if that's not enough, some people even claim that planting dill near carrots can make them taste bitter. So, if you want to avoid a plant-based war in your garden, it's best to keep carrots and dill separate. Plant them in different parts of the garden, or better yet, in separate containers. That way, they can each have their own space to grow and thrive without getting in each other's way. Tomatoes and corn. While tomatoes and corn might seem like the perfect match for your summertime barbecue, they actually compete for the same soil nutrients. This means that if you plant them together, they'll both struggle to grow and produce a good yield. Corn will cast shade on your tomato plants, making them unable to get enough sunlight. So it's advisable to plant them in different parts of your garden if you insist on having both. You know what they say, don't plant anything near black walnuts unless you want to send your plants to a nutty, black abyss. You see, black walnuts are like the garden bullies of the plant world. They exude a toxic substance called juglone, which is deadly to many plants, and they're not shy about using it to their advantage. It's like they're saying, hey, buddy, you want to mess with me? Fine, but don't come crying to me when your plants start to wilt and die. Juglone is released by the roots, bark, and nut holes of black walnut trees, and it can remain in the soil for years, even after the tree is gone. If you plant sensitive plants, like tomatoes or peppers, near a black walnut, they'll start to show signs of toxicity, like yellowing leaves or stunted growth. It's like the black walnut is saying, I'm the boss, and you're not welcome here. But don't worry, there are still plenty of plants that can coexist peacefully with black walnuts. Plants like hostas, ferns, And wildflowers are all juglone tolerant, and they won't be bothered by the toxic substance. So, if you want to avoid a nutty, black abyss in your garden, steer clear of planting anything near black walnuts. And if you absolutely must plant something nearby, make sure it's a tough cookie that can handle a little toxicity. Although it's not advisable to force these frenemies together, you can plant them but be on the know-how. How to combat the different pest and fungal diseases that they bring to each other and be ready for reduced yields as opposed to planting them in different parts of your garden. So, there you have it, a few plant pairs that should definitely not be planted together. And if you're looking for some more gardening tips, well, you might want to ask someone else. If you found this informative, please consider giving me a like and subscribing for more content.
I was there when needed someone who wasn't getting over you.